Derek Carr will not take a pay cut. Ladies and gentlemen, I repeat, Derek Carr, Saints quarterback, will not take a pay cut. So I hinted at this in yesterday's video. This was in an article to ESPN, I believe. And optics, not great, okay? This is not what you want to hear if you're a fan from a player who is very much a very polarizing figure, who is very much in the balance as far as the future of this team. Now, let me say this. I don't blame Carr for not wanting to take a pay cut. I don't blame any athlete for not wanting to take a pay cut. I don't blame anybody in their life, at your job and your career, for not wanting to take a pay cut. I think wanting the money that was promised to you, I think is okay. Like, I don't think that's crazy. Carr mentioned in the article that he would restructure, but he wasn't going to take the cut. All right. So he, and if you read the article, whatever, it talks about how, he wants to do his best for the team, and he will restructure, and he will do this, and he will do that, but not at the expense of taking a pay cut. Now, I really wanted to, obviously everyone's talking about this. A reason I wanted to listen to OTB is because of Jacob Hester. Jacob is, I would think, the only person in the content creator space for the Saints who has signed an NFL contract and who understands what goes into an NFL contract and what goes into the negotiation and all that. And, if my hands are a little bit bigger, I might be up there. But so let's go ahead and listen to OTB. We're going to react and act accordingly here.
I was asked yesterday, would you take a pay cut? Derek Carr said, quote, I would not take a pay cut. Yeah, I wouldn't do that, especially with what I put on tape. But a restructure, absolutely. Always help the team that way. But there's some things that you put out there that you earned. Even in some cases, it could be even worse. But I felt confident when I signed it, that this would give the team the best flexibility at the time. But there's always kind of respect as a quarterback. You're like, well, we're still in that respectful lane. God, that's kind of a word salad. We're good, build the team. But yeah, I wouldn't take anything less to do this. It's hard enough putting our bodies through it, and you're trying to get everything you can for your family for it. Derek Carr saying he's not taking a pay cut.
With that last part, read that again real quick. Sorry. The
last part, I'll say it. I do think it's crazy. I think Tyreek Hill just said this in his interview. I do think it's crazy whenever players say, like, I want to do what's best for me and my family, and I'm just trying to provide for my family. It's like, brother, you signed a $100 million deal. The family's good. They're checked in. No doubt about it. They're good. I think we can go ahead and scratch that one off the list. The family is A-okay. Everyone's taken care of. That is not in question. I think everyone's going to be eating pretty good. I think everybody's going to be pretty squared away for a while. I think the $100 million contract probably took care of most of that. So,
the whole thing got a little muddled in the middle.
I wouldn't take anything
less to do this. It's hard enough putting our bodies through it, and you're trying to get everything you can for your family for it.
Wouldn't take anything less to do it. And I think he's going to make, 40 next year? 40 million?
51.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think my salary was $285,000.
Yeah.
You could take some less to do it if you wanted to. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, whatever. I'm not, I don't have my hand in another man's pocket, but for him to.
Yeah, when you're talking about these contracts, when you're talking about the NFL, when you're talking about playing a children's game, when you're talking about all of that, and the fact that if Derek Carr is on the roster to start the NFL season, not week 1, the NFL calendar, he gets a $30 million guaranteed bonus. That is on top of everything else. So just the idea that if he's in a Saints uniform come the start of the NFL calendar, he's got $30 million heading to his account. $30 million. He could get hurt in the first snap of week 1 next season. Doesn't matter. He could get benched in training camp. Doesn't matter. That $30 million is going to his account. And when you really think about what $30 million is, and what it means in the grand scheme of things, the fact that that's just kind of an add-on to this, the fact that it's just kind of like lagniappe, as my boy Ross Jackson would say, like that to a mere common person who still looks at their receipt at Rouse's. I just looked today. I got 2 bunches of asparagus. Asparagus are like $4.99 right now, which is way too expensive for asparagus, but they're on sale at Rouse's. If you're not from the Gulf South, then you're not going to know what Rouse's is, but Rouse's is like a regional grocery store. But the asparagus bunches are on sale for $2.99. Still a little overpriced. I usually buy them at $1.99 or less. But $2.99, I was like, man, I haven't had asparagus in a while. I'll get some asparagus and I'll get some salmon. It's almost beach season. We all know that. But the sign said $4.99, and I was like, oh, I know the weekly ad said $2.99. So one, I checked out. Shouts to my grandma. She used to do this all the time. But I checked out. I pulled my cart over to the side. I pulled that receipt out, and I looked straight down there before I even left the building. And I saw $2.99 asparagus, and I said, okay, let's rock and roll. So Carr ain't doing that, all right?
To come out like that and say the tape, I'm like, I'll watch tape with you.
Well,
we'll break it down.
So that's where if I want to. So first off, okay, here's my deal. I will never blame a person for not taking a pay cut. You know, fire me
100%.
if you want to pay me less. It is what it is.
100%.
Yeah, I'm not really mad.
I've been forced into taking pay cuts before, and it's a god awful feeling.
Yeah,
because you feel like you don't have any options, and they're like, "Hey, here's a plate of elephant crap. Why don't you go ahead and eat that with a smile on your face?" Yeah. It's a god awful feeling that engenders a lot of bad will.
No doubt.
So I'll never fault another man for not taking a pay cut. If I want to play, and I understand all the jokes of him being like, look at what I put on tape, and then Twitter's like, here's the tape, and it's like Derek Carr throwing like a game-losing pick, right? All this other sort of stuff.
I think with Carr, I think that part kind of gets taken. I mean, I'm not obviously not defending this whole situation, but I think what Carr is saying is that he already signed the contract. He's not. It's not like he is. It's not like he's signing a contract. So when he says like I already put what I put on tape, he's not talking about this year. He's talking about like what led to the contract. He's talking about his entire career. He's talking about the entirety, the totality of his tape that led to him signing the contract when him, Pete Carmichael, and Dennis Allen went to Ralph's and ate dinner before he signed with New Orleans. Like that's what he's talking about. This isn't a new thing. This isn't him begging for a contract. He's got it. He's got the deal. He's got the contract. Got the $30 million roster bonus coming up. Got the 2 years. Got the no trade clause. So for him, he's saying like, I already did all this. I did all the stuff in Vegas and Oakland that led to signing this contract. So in other terms, he's basically saying like, I don't got to prove nothing to nobody. I got checks coming my way.
But what is he, the 18th highest paid quarterback in the NFL?
Is that,
to be fair?
That's not true anymore. Okay, so his deal, now again, I don't have overthecap.com pulled up or all this stuff. This is all off of memory, so if I'm off a couple milli, if I'm off a couple asparagus bunches, feel free to let me know in the comments. But his contract was a 4-year deal. The first 2 years were where the guaranteed money was, most of the guaranteed money, and that's where he was paid, I think, $30 million a year, which put him at whatever it was, 18th or 19th quarterback. His salary goes up, and I think his guaranteed money goes down. So I think his salary is like $51 million next year, and then $61 million the year after, I believe. And then, again, with the bonus. So I think next year, actually, he's going to be like way up there. And then obviously 60 million or 61 million is like highest paid quarterback in the league. So that is a bit, as I know it, is a bit incorrect.
He's paid. Yeah. I mean, he's played like that. So like,
I think the problem is Look, I mean, you're right about the pay cut. It's like, no, I'm not taking a pay cut. Like restructure. Like if he's open to restructure, I think it is a quote that's kind of giving this story legs. But he's going to be 19% of your cap next year. You're going to be 21% of it in 2026, and then you can void it in 2027. I think the only real issue, at least for me, is I don't think he's going to be your quarterback next year.
Right.
Yeah, I think you just cut him and eat the cap hit.
I think so.
I agree. I've said this before, and I keep having to answer the same question in the comments. Like, it's nothing against Carr. I think Carr is fine. I think Carr's a good quarterback. Carr's middle-of-the-road quarterback. You can win with Carr. He can get you 9-10 games. He can get you to playoffs. No doubt about it. But for a team that's in the Saints situation and a quarterback that is at his age with a contract that is expiring, like we're on the downslope of his contract, it's not worth the contract. And if the contract is scaling up, and let's take a look at it. I don't want to guess. Okay, so here it is. So I nailed this one. All right, so his first couple of years, he's got, let's see, Derek Carr signed a 4-year, $150 million contract with the Saints. $100 million of the contract is guaranteed, with $60 million fully guaranteed at signing. Okay, so again, the guaranteed is front-loaded. You can see on here the salary is less at the beginning, more at the back end. That is a way that they switch the salary around into bonuses and cash and incentive, and you backload a contract salary-wise. That's how the Saints do business. That's why Kamara was on like a $21 million. Before restructuring, Kamara was on a $21 million a year deal next year with $0 guaranteed. It's just like a Fugazi year. So the Saints do this all the time. Carr received a $28.5 million signing bonus, and his 2023-2024 base salaries are fully guaranteed. If on the roster in March of 2024, which was last league start, a $10 million roster bonus due in 2025 will become fully guaranteed. Another $30 million in salary in 2025 will be guaranteed if on the roster that March. That is the $30 million bonus we keep talking about. All right, so that $30 million bonus is the league calendar year, which begins in March. Carr has a no-trade clause, part of his contract. We knew that. We are assuming that the Saints included a void year for salary cap purposes, but that is not yet confirmed. Okay, so then if you look at the actual structure of the contract, you can see his base salary goes 1.15, 1.21, and then now we're here in this year, $30 million base, but again, remember the bonuses kick in, and then 2026, $50 million, which in the cap you can see over here, $51 million and $61 million. Okay, so again, I hate getting involved in the cap and I hate getting involved in the contract because stuff gets moved around so fast. Like what is once a bonus can then be turned into an incentive. What was once an incentive can then be turned into cash. What was once it can get all moved around. What was once a void year can be restructured. Yeah, so I hate even showing it, but just so the numbers we're talking about match and add up, just so you're seeing it, this is what it looks like. All right, so basically what we're debating is, would the Saints rather save the $30 million and eat the contract, which you're eating anyways, or pay the $30 million and then continue to pay this enormous salary, this enormous base salary this year and next year? You know, would you rather do that? Same situation as Kirk Cousins, where the Falcons decided, we'll save $9 million, we'll save $10 million, cut him. You know, and this is what I think will happen with the Saints. I think the Saints will choose, and this is what happened with the Raiders, where they chose to designate Carr the post-June 1 cut. They cut him. They saved whatever it was at the time. Exact same situation. So I agree. I think that's how it's going to play out as well.
If he's not going to play, because I don't think if you're going to ride with a Spencer Rattler or whoever you decide to be your quarterback, I just don't think you want this albatross. Like, and again, like that's not saying that Derek Carr would try to alienate whoever the quarterback is. That would just happen organically, I think. Like Kirk Cousins is not going to be in Atlanta next year for Michael Penix Jr.
agreed.
to have him in that same room. It's just not going to.
Exactly, and people have said that too. They're like, why wouldn't the Falcons just keep Cousins? They're already paying him. Just keep Cousins and let him develop Penix. It's like once you kind of break the seal, like you can't really go backwards. You can't say Penix is the guy, and then actually we're going to bring in this other guy and pay him a ton, and then just constantly do this flip flopping and all of that. That doesn't happen. I mean, it's just not the case. So. Yeah, Atlanta, no doubt about it. Cousins is gone, 100%. They've already made their bed. They're lying in it. And the conversation with the Saints right now is, do we think Spencer Rattler is good enough? Now, here's the next part. Good enough for what? Because the Saints aren't in a win-now mode. The Saints are in a find a new head coach mode, find a new scheme mode, get rid of these aging contracts. We just got news today that I've been saying for literally 14 months. Ryan Ramczyk basically retired today, did the paperwork or whatever. So we're already seeing some of the things that we've said was going to happen as far as like got rid of Lattimore, got rid of his contract. We're seeing certain players retire now. Ramczyk, we'll see what happens with Cam Jordan. We'll see what happens with Tyrann. We'll see what happens with Demario Davis. We're seeing players whose contract ends anyways. We have like 10 players that are on their contracts are up, including Chase Young. You've got other players whose contract end next year, like Taysom Hill, who knows I think he'll restructure his deal. But you got all this happening. This is the time to say, well, Rattler's good enough to keep us competitive. We're not really in a situation where we're in a win now mode. Like, we're not in a situation where it's like, all right, rebuild the team. We can win with Carr. That ain't it. That was it last year when we thought we had a top 10 defense. Because of injuries and whatever else, like, it is what it is. But we are not in a situation where it's like, look, if we just protect Derek Carr and we just keep him upright and we can get out there and we can win this and we can win that and we can shoot for it. Nope. Not the case. That ain't it. So if you think Rattler can win you, keep you around 500, cool. Like, if you think he can keep you float around 500, you believe in some of the roster, you're rebuilding, you're getting younger, you're getting off contracts, players are retiring, other players are developing, you're kind of creating that new window that we always talk about, the new window of core players that's going to carry you into the future. You got to find them in the draft. Please be Mason Graham. That's what's happening. All right, so it is what it is. And aging quarterback with an escalating contract with a big daddy guaranteed salary or guaranteed bonus doesn't really fit into that.
Happen. Like, that dynamic doesn't work. No
What
matter
is
how
that cap
friendly.
hit if they cut him,
I'll
60
have to
million.
look it up. No matter if you're
you don't
friendly or
think so?
not.
You don't think there's any way that Cousins would remain in backup?
I just
role?
don't. I think
Absolutely
the dynamic
not.
of it.
Yeah,
hell
This
no.
I get
veteran
what you're
player
saying.
who's
Cousins going to remain in the backup role and you're going to have Michael Penix with that, dealing with that? Hell no. They're going to eat that cap. And as far as I know, it's the second biggest cap hit in NFL history, the first being Russell Wilson.
made a lot of plays in the NFL, and then you got this rookie, but this veteran player is making 10 times what he's making. Is that veteran quarterback? Again, like, I don't even say that they're doing this on purpose, but the backup quarterback in the NFL has a very important job.
Yeah.
He's trying to get the starting quarterback as ready as anybody in that building. And Flynn, when he comes in 10 minutes, can kind of speak on that better than anybody. And I just don't think like either one of those quarterbacks will be helpful in that situation. Now, if their new coach,
They wouldn't want to do it anyways. Carr has talked about, and Cousins is the same way. They want to win. They are at the back ends of their career. All Derek Carr cares about is winning a championship. We just covered his interview where he said that. All he wants to do is win a title. All he wants to do is win. All he wants to do is play meaningful games. Does that sound like the same guy who would say, yeah, I'll be the backup? Hell no. He would force his way out. Cousins, same way. They are at the end of their careers. They're not going to say, you know what? All right, I'm done. Because that's basically what you're doing as a backup quarterback. You're basically saying, okay, I'm done. My time as being the captain, my time as being the leader of the locker room, my time as being this is over with. It's obvious that Derek Carr does not want that to happen. Kirk Cousins doesn't want that to happen. So they will find a team, and there will be a landing spot, and there are teams that will pay them, and they'll get their contract or whatever it's going to be. But whether it's, however it works out. But Yeah, Carr is not going to accept being the backup.
Coach comes in, T, and maybe it is an Aaron Glenn. He's a defensive guy. They think a little bit more conservatively, right? So, hey, let's get Derek Carr. We're paying him already. Let's get a veteran quarterback. Let's get him some better weapons. Let's try to win by playing good enough offense and great defense, maybe in that scenario.
How much of that goes down to when you hire a new coach, you tell him you have leeway to lose in year one? Because
no,
if you
not
cut,
anymore.
like,
not with what we just saw in the NFL Black
So that's
Monday.
what I'm saying. So, but if you cut Derek Carr, you're going to be worse. I do believe that.
Yeah, and to go back, I think you do have a little bit of leeway depending on who you bring in. The Saints' job is very unique where it is a reset because no other team handles the books like the Saints. So I think if the Saints do go into this like resetting the financials, which it looks like they are, then I think the coach would, and maybe, honestly, maybe that's why Mickey wants someone that he knows. We heard Mickey's quote about that where he said, I want a guy I know. Maybe he wants a guy he knows because that's part of this gig is, hey, look, you know how we do things here. You know how the finances work. We're restructuring this. Here's the plan. Here's the situation. And that coach is going to have to be okay with that. This is not the way I see it happening, I could be wrong, but this is not a come in, win now type of a job. And I don't think it's going to be sold that way. I'd be very surprised if it's sold that way. The only way it'll be sold that way is if the only way I think it could be sold that way, honestly, is if they kind of go with Rizzy. If they go with Rizzy, then I think it is kind of like we believe we can win with what's in the building, so we're giving you another year to do that, and hopefully players stay healthy. And I think then it could be a potentially like, hey, go win. But if they bring in somebody, like Vrabel or somebody, like that's more of a set the culture, set the standard, build what you can. We're dumping cap, get younger, prioritize the draft. That's how I see that happen. Now, it certainly could. An Aaron Glenn, a Darren Rizzi, like that conversation could certainly be like, look, we're going to keep the offense kind of steady and then figure out the rest, but right the ship.
I think I want to figure out what Spencer Rattler is to see if maybe you do have a young guy that you feel like you're starting. And maybe I'm wrong, right? Like maybe you cut Derek Carr and you get better. I just don't think that's very likely.
Yeah, it's not very realistic to expect that. If you're cutting Carr, you're expecting to get worse in the short term at the quarterback position.
What did Rattler go in his starts this year? 0-7?
Yeah.
No, he had nobody to throw to. It was inconsistent. He was great in the first half against Tampa the other day, and they kind of fell. So, like, I've seen enough there where I want to see maybe what he can do, and I want to start this new era and kind of rebuild from the ground up. But you have to empower a coach when you hire them and give them that leeway. Otherwise, I feel like they'd be kind of forced to bring back Carr. Because they'd be like, okay, wait, so why would I take then a lesser quarterback and eat a $50 million cap hit if you're telling me that I could be at risk of getting fired after year one?
Yeah, I don't think the Saints' job. I mean, the Saints are pretty low volatility when it comes to that, anyways. Like we've seen that with some of the coaches where it's like, man, damn, you're going to give Dennis Allen another year. Damn, you're going to give Pete Carmichael another year. So I think the Saints are kind of that franchise, anyways. And I think there would be some serious leeway with a coach coming in.
I mean, you start to look at this contract. He's got a $10 million roster bonus coming in 2025, $30 million salary fully guarantees on the third league day of 2025.
Yeah.
2026 roster bonus of $10 million. So, I mean, there's a lot of, different language in this contract as well. And so if you're going to make the move, it's probably sooner rather than later. But to your point, what you're saying, if you're like, hey, I see these coaches getting axed after 1 year, my best foot forward is going to be with Derek Carr. That might save his job in New Orleans.
Yeah, and then try to go like 7-10 or something, and then you try to build from there.
But that's kind of the worst case scenario, because if you're an incoming coach, because it's like, all right, we kept Carr, we went 7-10, but now we have to cut him because we're not going to pay him $60 million. So now I'm really up against it. I think you're better off. I really do think you're better off just going with Rattler, rebuilding, getting young, shedding contracts, letting certain players walk, restructure certain players, and that just be it. That's just where the Saints are. And I would love for a coach to come in and accept that and build through that. But as far as like the comment, like I do agree with what Jacob and T-Bob were saying. Like I think it did get overinflated because it sounds bad. Like I'm not taking a pay cut. When in reality, like no one's going to take a pay cut. No one is going to say, yeah, I'll take one. They're all going to restructure. They're all going to, like, no one's going to actually take a pay cut. So I don't blame Carr for that. But I know, the fans hate hearing that. So there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you thought. What should the Saints do? It's going to be a fun offseason, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you in the next video.